Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So we've been talking quite a lot about the Mandalorian and Grogu, and especially the fan and influencer reactions at CinemaCon 2026, where the first 20 minutes were shown. Lucasfilm has been doing a lot of marketing with the final trailer, with some TV spots, and a few folks were invited to see Jon Favreau's garage, and from that crowd, the first impressions for the Mandalorian and Grogu have been overwhelmingly positive. But is that the full truth? There's always skepticism with early access because it's this idea that they don't want to piss off the mouse, they don't want to say anything that prevents them from being invited in the future, and so you have to take those positive reviews with a pinch of salt. But today, my friends, this has been making the rounds. Polygon.com was given access to the first 15 minutes, and as they say, they have a lot of thoughts. And as someone who likes to stay upbeat, as someone who's still looking forward to the film, I think it's very important to stay fair and look at both sides. I'm not endorsed by Lucasfilm or Disney, I buy my tickets like everyone else, but as a fan I'm interested to see how people felt about it. So I just want to preface this by saying that, based on everything we've seen, I think the movie's going to be pretty fun. Lots of crazy different aliens. We've got Martin Scorsese playing a relative of Rio Durand. That's a fact, by the way. We've got Anselons, Hutts, new planets, familiar planets from the Clone Wars. I think it's going to be a fun ride, and if you go in with your expectations in check, you're probably going to have a better time. I don't expect this to be high stake, it's probably not going to be lore changing or break any records, but so far it looks pretty chill. It looks like it's going to be a fun, galactic adventure. If there are big surprises, that's great, all the better. So that's where I'm coming from, but let's see what Polygon said. The article is written by Jake Kleinman, and he says, I saw the first 15 minutes of The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I have a lot of thoughts. And it goes without saying this video is going to have a lot of spoilers because he describes the first 15 minutes. But I'm just going to try and keep it to the meat and potatoes, and I really am curious about his criticisms. I've not read the entire thing myself. I've seen the article being shared online and being spoken about, but I wanted to give you my raw, honest thoughts. So let's dive in. The Mandalorian and Grogu is facing a lot of pressure to refuel the sputtering franchise. Ever since the disastrous conclusion of the sequel trilogy with 2019's Episode 9, Star Wars has been relegated to pumping out TV shows for Disney's streaming platform. Now the franchise is making a theatrical comeback with Jon Favreau's feature-length continuation of his popular Star Wars series The Mandalorian. Ahead of the film's premiere on May 22nd, Disney invited a handful of journalists to watch the first 15 minutes. And this was at the IMAX headquarters in LA. Ooh, fancy. Polygon was part of that group, making me one of the first people not employed by Lucasfilm to see anything beyond the trailers. While it was exciting to see Din Djarin and Grogu on the big screen, my first impression of the film is that it feels more like a Star Wars video game or Netflix show than the blockbuster movie that's going to return Star Wars to its former glory. Now this is the quote I've already seen. This is the quote that's been going semi-viral, that The Mandalorian and Grogu looks like a TV show, that there's no marked improvement over the way it looks on Disney+. It doesn't look cinematic enough. Some have described it as looking rather cheap. Fans have been saying this about the trailers, the TV spots, and even the clip that was posted yesterday. I've seen fans try to fix the coloration, the saturation, and make it look more like a Star Wars movie. And this has sparked some very interesting conversations where I've seen fans say that even though they didn't like the sequel trilogy, at least episodes 7, 8, and 9 looked like movies. Say what you will about the stories and the characters, the lack of a plan, at least the visuals looked amazing. Now I've got to be honest, I'm not sure I fully agree. Again, they got access to the first 15 minutes, which I've not seen, but if we're basing our assessments just on the public footage, then I understand where they're coming from with certain shots which do look a bit washed out. But on the other hand, certain trailer scenes have actually been quite impressive, all things considered. To this day I still think The Mandalorian's first season was the best, in terms of best visuals, but some of the planetary shots, certain moments like Grogu meditating or the ice planet, look like an improvement, at least over Book of Boba Fett and Season 3. I'm going to reserve my own judgment until I've seen it on a big screen, but for Polygon, it wasn't working for them. I know some people will point to the budget, it's quite a low budget, but if Star Wars fans can kind of fix these things from home, you would think a multi-billion-dollar studio could do better. But now my friends, we come on to the spoilers, the first 15 minutes and what Polygon saw. So they say this, The Mandalorian and Grogu does not begin with an opening crawl. I will just say guys, I've covered most of this stuff in my breakdown the other day, but they're giving their take, so let's see how it differs. Instead of a crawl, we get a few sparse lines of text to set the scene and catch up any film-going audiences who never watched the Disney Plus show. Although if you're not caught up on The Mandalorian, you're going to find this movie somewhat confusing. And along the same lines, I've seen fans say that they shouldn't have included Zeb, because most people haven't seen Rebels. A line or two of exposition could do the trick, but right off the bat, Polygon says, for your average viewer, things are a bit confusing. They then say, in the aftermath of Return of the Jedi, the New Republic rebuilds in the ashes of the Empire. Meanwhile, our heroes hunt down Imperial forces on the outskirts of the galaxy. The story opens in one of those remaining Imperial strongholds, where a mid-level crime boss is busy extorting his local syndicates. A second later, he shares some bad news. He's raising prices for everyone, paying for his protection. When one of the other criminals points out they're currently operating at a loss, the mob boss shoots him dead. Then, before the meeting can end, Din Djarin shows up. And now, my friends, we have some exclusive concept art. We see the main two remnants in the film, Lord Janu, and this guy, as well as some of the syndicates, and early concepts for Colonel Ward. It's interesting they put her in the same group as the remnants. Is she a double agent? The eponymous Mandalorian bursts into the room with his usual flair, shooting flames across the floor to disarm a pair of hiding guards. The crime boss makes a run for it, but Mando pursues him outside, in the snowy mountains. That's when we get the ATST Walker scene, although I think they meant ATRT, and the camera pans down to reveal several AT-ATs. And their criticism is, it looks like a video game, not just because the entire thing was created in Unreal Engine, but because of the camera angles. Favreau points the camera directly at the enemies. All that's missing is a spinning autosave icon. Is it really that bad? My goodness. Eventually they're saved by Zeb, they're taken back to Adelphi, and we meet Colonel Ward, and that's when Mando says, I'll take out every bad guy in your deck of cards. And once again, Polygon complains that this is very similar to a video game. It's almost like he's unlocking a new mission. I can actually see some fans defending this, actually enjoying that aesthetic. Then Mando is tasked to take down Commander Coin, who was previously assumed dead, but isn't. They don't know what he looks like, but as we learned from that clip yesterday, Mando and Zeb are gonna kidnap him. And Mando has to work with the Hutts. And they say that even compared to the Rise of Skywalker, the Mandalorian and Grogu feel soulless and limp. They do say they are still optimistic, but they finish with this. Star Wars really needs a win, but I'm still not convinced the Mandalorian and Grogu is it. Aside from Polygon, Gizmodo is also pretty uninspired by the first look, stating the first clip from the Mandalorian and Grogu sure looks like that. It kind of reminds me of those jokes where people are like, I wasn't overwhelmed, I wasn't underwhelmed, I was just whelmed. And they really dig into the Mando movie by saying, nothing would make us happier than for the film to provide the joy and wonder that Star Wars has always provided. But we're also honest, and if we're being honest, not everything being released from the film has inspired hope. The most recent trailer was great, but the first clip, not so much. And why that clip? If I were in charge of the publicity, I would have posted the clip of Mando meeting Colonel Ward, really get casual fans excited for Sigourney Weaver in the Star Wars universe. Paul Tassi at Forbes also says, the first Mandalorian and Grogu clip is unsurprisingly underwhelming. Very similar sentiment in this one, talking about the first Star Wars movie in 6.5 years, and a central criticism from him, the movie looks cheap. I hope the Mandalorian and Grogu does well, but sometimes you get the impression that Lucasfilm doesn't even know who they've made this movie for, outside of the core fan base who watches everything. But even among that demographic, there are fans who have checked out. Again, I'm still looking forward to this film, I'm still going to talk about it, I'm looking forward to making a review of it, but it's important to look at these early critics, it's important to look at different perspectives because like I said, up until now apart from Star Wars fans and their reactions to the trailers, when it comes to the influencers, the early access people, we've not heard many criticisms. I guess we'll find out in a month. What do you guys think though? How have you been feeling about the new TV spots? Are you excited for the movie? Are you apprehensive? Is it a wait and see situation? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, my dear friends. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.